We are live. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Haiti Biz News Show. Seejeanty here. As always, if you're catching this after the fact, just know you could have watched this live. You could have been participating if you only had woke up a little early. We're at 7 a.m. Eastern is when we try to get on air. Sometimes a little after. So if you can, try to catch us around that time. You know, some typical mentions we got to talk about for sure before we officially start. And really, I do this to kind of allow folks to come into the stream. Is of course, everything we talk about in this on this episode. Of course, you'll be able to find on Haiti Biz News, HaitiBizNews.com. Remember, our YouTube Seejeanty, we got a bunch of other different content on there from joining in Haiti, from driving in Haiti, to taking a look at very cool touristic places, hotels, sites, historic sites, a bunch of really cool stuff. Most recently, our new Palais series, which focuses on empowering folks to be able to be successful in a venture in Haiti, is some is an episode we just dropped recently. We had two veteran business folks over in the country for many years, and provide their perspective. So do make it a point. Check out YouTube Seejeanty. That specific video is going to be in the link described below. Okay. Bunge GoFundMe. We're still trying to push hard for it. And here is the link for those inclined to make an impact. Last I checked, they were at 26,000, trying to push towards their goal of 50,000. Just shy of 26,000, and the donations keep coming in. I'm seeing 3 days ago they had one for 300, another about a day ago for 75, 50, right? And of course, whatever you can provide, maybe $5-10 to help Bunge, a grassroots entrepreneurial important center that was off Delma to get back on his feet. Will be appreciated. We'll show that you're not just about talking or negativity. You're about that action, right? And so again, do check out Bunge GoFundMe, see what you can do. 5, 10, 15, 20, $100, whatever you can provide will certainly help restore the entrepreneurial ecosystem, particularly after this crisis is over. We got Dodges Mimi in YouTube chat. Good morning, my brother. Good morning. Happy to see you. All right. And of course, as always, as you're coming in, remember, share the stream. It's a conversation we're trying to have. And the more people that are in the stream, the more people who are part of it, asking questions, providing their input, their perspective, the deeper sort of episode we could have, right? Because I think that's the draw of what we're doing here. That's why I chose to keep it live rather than doing how I used to do it, which is more episodic, post-produced, because the engagement, I certainly appreciated. And I thought you guys appreciate it as well, right? All right, so let's get started. Haiti Biz News Show, Monday to Friday, bringing you news that's going to keep you informed, engaged, and reacting in the most optimal way for your business, investment, entrepreneurial activity. Today is the 22nd of October. Let's talk about it. Of course, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on 3 mediums. My folks who are on Instagram right now, just know that the focus really is on the YouTube and Facebook stream. So if you want to go and switch over, you can find me on YouTube, Seejeanty, right? Okay. So the first news story we want to talk about today, the very first news story, is the update on the protests. We have to do it. It's dominating every facet of life at the moment, so we have to talk about it. The first, of course, there is a update on the hunger strike. There's a hunger strike. There's UEH law students, 15 of them started. There's 11 of them currently engaged on their second week of the hunger strike, consuming only water and receiving from the Red Cross intravenous serum to keep their health and sustenance going. Because remember, these aren't fat Americans, right? Right? You're talking, about men and women, and there's maybe 2 women and the rest are men who are doing this. And again, they're of normal girth, right? So whereas American can probably go 2 weeks and look actually good. 2 weeks here certainly means folks are showing bones and showing definite signs of malnourishment because of this, right? So we certainly hope, and they've expressed that they are willing to, lose their lives for the goal of removing President Moise from power, right? So our prayers are certainly with them today. So an update on the religious protest that happened yesterday. If you recall, there was supposed to be a religious march of many religious actors, Catholic, non-denominational, denominational, that was supposed to march, and a good amount of showing did come in the thousands were reported. But during the march on Route Panaméricaine, there was an accident. Apparently, there was oil on the road, and the main organizer, Pastor Mathieu, experienced his sound truck. I call them a sound truck. It's a truck. If you know Haiti well, there's these trucks that roam around with loudspeakers that profess scripture and profess different biblical, things and messages. And so that truck lost control because of the oil and on the road, and over 16 people were wounded and injured. And it was very chaotic by all reports, right? Today, there's supposed to be protests more related to teachers' unions across the country. Have been announced. Protests are still ongoing. We've had some return to normalcy. I am aware of some schools opening. I am aware of some parents taking their students, their kids to school. But that is has been a function of a few things. First being how close the school is to the person's home, and really how quickly they feel they can get their kid out if things were to just suddenly become hot. So that is really the update in terms of the protest. Jovenel still has not resigned. In fact, he has taken to social media. He's taken to other avenues to talk about why he should stay in power. He's had several videos on Instagram, for example, that are very much trying to position himself as for the people and going against the small minority that owns and is doing justice to the general population. Certainly, many folks have viewed that language and that behavior as decisive. Many folks are saying now that he is brewing division in society, while others are just seeing that it's him obviously playing his base, trying to go after who he feels is potentially the most threatening of the many divisions that are currently after him to resign, and additionally playing for his international backers, IMF, IDB, on things that they've long wanted Haiti to do. For example, cancel these contracts, remove the gas subsidy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. We'll continue to watch protests. Certainly, probably the biggest update related to protests has been the deteriorating economic condition. There's been increasingly private actors, private sector, private businesses, known private businesses that have announced that they either are temporarily closing their doors and or announced layoffs. We have Caroon bottlers who, if you've been to Haiti, orange soda guys. They also have a relationship with Coca-Cola as the primary distributor in the country. They've announced large layoffs. Several hotels, including Best Western, have announced that they will be closing their doors temporarily, is what my sources are telling me. They're temporarily closing their doors. We have Hotel Caribe has announced downsizing and a reduction of their staff. And several other hotels, Mont Joly and Ocap has announced temporary closures as well. So it looks like the economic effects are really starting to come down. Maison Handal has also shifted to temporary having some of their staff not come to work. The list goes on. There's and daily there are more and more businesses coming out saying they're either temporary closing or doing very large layoffs of their staff. Now, bear in mind, again, Haiti has a very large unemployment rate, right? And this certainly is something that is not good, to put it lightly, and only certainly exacerbates a situation that is already out of hand and already is approaching, if not has already crossed over into a humanitarian crisis, right? So that's the update as relates to the protests. We're keeping an eye on things. We're certainly hoping things do improve and do improve soon. But protests have been announced for every day this week. Pressure still is very high on President Moise, and there is no indication that he is going to step down. In other news, we have Petit Goave. There is another flood that affected Petit Goave. Remember, on September 18th, mid-September, we reported that Petit Goave had suffered a terrible flood that affected thousands, with hundreds of homes underwater. There was a humanitarian response by several NGOs in the area shortly afterwards. Now there's another flood, unfortunately. The flood has destroyed at least 6 homes, loss of cattle, roads being blocked, and hundreds being affected by the current round of flooding. Certainly not as bad as before, where much of that rain was fueled by a tropical depression that was sitting or passing through Haiti. But certainly this only adds salt to injury for the folks living in that area, right? In other news, we have schools going digital. And schools have gone digital, and this is related to protests, where more and more schools and teachers are putting their force and play into the capacity to instruct remotely. How are they doing it? They're using WhatsApp. They're creating WhatsApp groups, and through WhatsApp groups, they are instructing, leaving voice notes, leaving videos, and leaving lesson plans for students and the parents, if the parents are able to contribute to that aspect, right? Of course, students are liking the amount of homework. But more importantly, however, and more realistically, the situation is that many of these students are forced to wait typically until the end of the day when there's power, or during this window during the day where there is electricity, to be able to do their homework, to actually charge their phones, read the lesson plans, and work. And if it's at night, then obviously they certainly have to wait, because otherwise darkness is certainly an issue, right? So the reality is many students are affected by a situation where even if they could access or access these material, and had parents themselves that were up to the task of instructing their kids on these particular items that they themselves may not have been educated on, right? Knowing the literacy rate of Haiti and the infrastructure issues related to electricity makes it very difficult for actual education to be done remotely, right? But nonetheless, it is important to add that this is a trend that is increasing, and it's one of the ways schools are having to react to ensure that these parents are indeed getting a return on their money this year, given the constant and continual protests that are occurring in the country. Okay, and that's really kind of where we're going to end it. But I do want to talk about something that related to the Haiti Biz News Show, which is is a very strong likelihood that very soon, probably as early as coming this week, we may go to a weekly schedule rather than a daily. Here's why. The book that I keep mentioning, it's been a slow going. I'm maybe a fraction of where I wanted to be going into November. And given the nature of what's going on in the country, again, what the book is a the name of the title is 101 Ways to Make Money in Haiti, right? And it's I believe it's increasingly important to have material like this, especially in times of crisis, to provide folks an avenue to be able to impact change, not in the usual way, right? Because the usual way is to, get on the radio, get in a barbershop, nowadays with social media, do a live and just yap about things most folks don't even really know about, which is their opinion on this president or candidate, their perspective on quote unquote elites that are, pushing down on the economy, quote unquote, other aspects of how if they were president, they would come and clean shop, which is fantastic. But it's been that sort of discourse has been part of what has made Haiti, and has been ongoing since the inception. And of course, if anyone has done any bit of, looking through history and the amount of coups, the amount of political strife that has occurred over, just since the beginning of the country, it's clear that a focus on politics constantly doesn't and isn't going to change the country. There needs to be focused instead on the economics and have the conversations focused on genuinely, not just provide a lip service as Martelly did during his time. Haiti's open for business. Obviously, that's very far from the case, but an actual focused effort of folks actually coming to the country to try to do business, be successful at it, and impact the ecosystem that way, right? Where a business first approach related to, and not only because of this idealistic ideal of mine, naively or so, but for the given fact that all the folks who hold power currently in Haiti, all the folks who are moving the country in a direction that a lot of folks don't agree with, came in with a business first approach, were successful, and now hold the economic shoestrings of the political power that hasn't been moving the country forward, right? And so given that reality and given, countless points of history have shown a business first approach in anything is really the way that changes anything in any society. I'm not saying this book is going to be a game-changing lexicon, right? But what I'm saying, though, is that's my contribution to where I feel the direction of the country needs to go. And I really want to focus on that. And the Haiti Biz News Show, the news I provide, even though it's generally pretty quick, it takes, I've had episodes, and you guys know this, that has lagged on for an hour, right? And I appreciate the hour. The hour is fantastic. The back and forth we do is informative even for myself. But then there is usually, typically, even off air, another hour where I'm preparing for the show. So that's upwards of 2 to 3 hours that per day that unfortunately I'm not working on my book. So I want to give folks a very clear explanation to why I'm pushing towards a 1 week schedule of the Haiti Biz News Show. So instead I can focus on, and that 1 week I'm thinking about making it a Sunday morning show, somewhere around 11 a.m. Sunday mornings, and we certainly shoot for a full hour there. We'll talk about the entire happenings of the week. We'll keep it live, so long as I have folks who show up for the live, we'll keep it live so we can have those conversations on air and really take our time to discuss and navigate and try to understand what's going on together. But this way, it's a win-win, because initially I was thinking about even pausing the Haiti Biz News Show while I work on the book, right? And so this is a good middle ground where I feel potentially we can just do the show once a week, still get, the perspective of business, right? You guys still have the website, Haiti Biz News Show, HaitiBizNews.com, where you can, every day still get your feel of what's going on, echo politically, right? So that's my perspective. I haven't decided yet. I wanted to have that conversation on air and certainly get your perspective on things, and certainly see, maybe I'm not considering something, right? Let me take a look at the comments. Jacques George saying, with respect to online schooling, it's a good idea. There's also increase for more data, which costs money. These families already do not have. I certainly agree, Jacques. That's something that also needs to be talked about. The fact that there is You're already asking. Remember, these parents are already paying for um, their kids' schooling, and now they're being asked them to pay for data that is relative to the income of what many of these Haitians are making, very, very high, right? You're absolutely right. That's something I even consider, and that is certainly another stress point, right? It's something that, though the tools to do remote and digital exist, the reality of the infrastructure of the country makes even that very difficult, right? And it's something to really think about in so much that while we're moving towards a more digital, freer world, right, that is able to leverage um, academia, instruments of academia from around the world, because of Haiti's lack of investment in those critical points, it is very much a detriment to the progress of students here, right? And so thanks for that perspective there, Jacques, and that's a very stark reality that we certainly have to tackle, right? Low key slapping haters. It's a name I enjoy a little too much saying. Good morning. Good to have you in here today. Says if receiving millions monthly over a contract and a president from a poor country cuts my contract, I think I would pay an artist to cause a major march to turn carnivals to distract people. That is certainly a perspective that the President Moise is saying, right? That's certainly a perspective that he is saying that, the people on the streets right now, they're not on the streets because, there was just a report yesterday that, inflation year over year from last June to this June is up 35%. No, c'est pas ça. C'est pas ça. They're not in the streets for that. It's not that they're in the streets because the good has devalued 40% over the year. No, it's not that. It's not that. They're not in the streets because gas, the multiple attempts of President Moise to increase the gas prices by 50%, right? It's not that. It isn't the allegations of corruption, right? The rapid corruption that exists throughout the society, and the fact that he's directly implicated, named 20 times in a report, a nonpartisan report by the judicial segment of the government that's charged for these sort of investigations. It's not that. Right? It's not all these other things, right? And the fact that Haitians themselves are not seeing hope, right? It's simply that rich people are paying poor people to be angry. Come on, guys. Come on, man. Let's not insult 11 million people living in Haiti by simply simplifying a very difficult situation in the country. And again, I get it. You guys aren't in the country. A lot of you guys are in America just watching things, just hearing things. I get it. I'm here. Haiti, let me Pétionville. La. Okay? I'm telling you, take it from me. 3 years I've been here, things have gotten worse. Okay? On every facet of society. Right? Things have gotten worse. People are in the streets because they're angry about the fact that things are getting worse and no sign of improvement. Okay? Is it true that some people on the streets are being paid to do dizzle? Yes. Let's be clear about that. Yes, it's true. But 90 to 95% of the people on the streets right now are not being paid. 95% of the people are on the streets because they're angry, they're frustrated, they're tired, and they want freaking change. And we need to drive that narrative. I'm tired of reading. You get these texts, other people being paid. Come on. You're paying 100,000 people. How much? How much to be on the streets? Because that's how many folks are coming out during the weekends. At least 100,000 in the streets. Literally, you have protests starting from the old cemetery in Pétionville, all the way down to Delmar 30, right? That's at least 3 miles, right? And it's full of people, right? On Route Delmar. Come on now. Y'all need to stop that. Y'all need to, next person who tells you it's fully just people being paid. Come on. And that's what President Moise is trying to pitch. He's trying to pitch that narrative. Well, it's just people being paid, right? They don't like what I'm doing. Oh, no. There are a myriad of things that are affecting the common Haitian, and they're on the streets to protest. And they feel that the head of the snake is President Moise. And they're not just advocating for a change of presidency. You got to be clear of that. They're advocating for, they're advocating for a change of the system, right? They want President Moise out. That's step one. And step two, they want a new constitution. A new constitution that's going to do things such as reduce the amount of senators, reduce the amount of deputies, incorporate the diaspora involved in the political system at any level, and hard goals of public investment spending on education, on healthcare, Medicare, a lot of the things that are absolutely necessary are going to be enshrined in this document to ensure that the right amount of funding goes where it needs to go. Right. All right. That's that comment. Right. And now he's low-key saying something else, supporting President Moise's stance. So I'll skip that. Dada Mimi says, I know this is off subject, but where is the $1.50 Western Union if you're going towards? Because I thought this money was supposed to be going helping the country and help build schools. The answer is no one knows. That's the short answer, right? Because certainly it was supposed to be earmarked specifically for schools, but I can tell you there's countless educators that aren't being paid in the public sector. There's countless students who aren't receiving scholarships that this program also is supposed to be particularly helpful for. The answer is, and despite the fact that there's been countless groups in the diaspora who have pushed and petitioned the government to provide very clear data on, how much money's come in, how much money's come out, there has been very little provided. So the short answer is no one knows. That's the short conservative answer, right? Without going the direction where other people certainly would go, right? Those key stabbers still talking about conspiracies and diluting the entire movement to just a few actors. So I'll skip that comment. Dajamini goes on to say this money can be used to help. Yeah, it could certainly, the $1.50 certainly could, right? Dajamini continues, says, if the president refused to resign, does that mean that the protests will continue? Yeah, that's what it means. That's exactly what it means, right? Per what the opposition is saying, that's exactly what it means, right? Frangel Fanfan says, the protesting the senators too. You know what? I've said it many times. That is, Haiti will be on a path to change the day that the same energy that these people on the streets have for the president, they're on the streets for the senators and the deputies, right? Because truly, the entire power of the current constitution lies in the hands of the parliament, i.e. the senators and deputies, right? And so the day when you have the level of frustration geared towards specifically them, and the fact that they could very easily pass laws to change impact, the fact that agricultural and tariffs are disproportionate for imports and doesn't support agriculture, the fact that they could pass laws to make it easier so it doesn't cost $3,000 and 3 months to register a business, and where where it could be like the Dominican Republic where it's $100 in a single day, right? They could pass these laws. They don't have. There is no presidential need, right? They pass these laws, and it's law. Maybe that's it. All the president would have to do is sign, and there's no president in the world, especially in Haiti, that wouldn't sign a bill that makes it cheaper and easier to start a business, right? There's a reason why PayPal isn't in here, because there is no law in the books that allows for electronic signatures, right? And it's something that has been petitioned by many actors in the entrepreneurial ecosystem to have PayPal come into the country. They could pass these laws. They don't, right? Instead, they just, Yoshita, they're receiving their salaries, and they're saying, it's the president, y'all. Hey, man, that president's not doing his job, right? Because so many folks really in Haiti in particular, and in the diaspora as well, because you hear this all the time, the president, I want to be president, I want to be president, that focus strictly on a president that has really constitutionally a figurehead position, so much so that's why they created the prime minister to actually execute the executive branch that they have to approve. But again, still go back to my original little rant, which was the fact that that's why I do support these protests, because there is a component of system change, right? It's not just taking the president out, but doing a constitutional change that's going to reduce the amount of senators, reduce the amount of deputies, right? And allow the diaspora to run for office after a residential period. Everybody always, well, they can't just come to America, to Haiti, and just run for office. No, it's going to be a residential period. Don't worry about that, right? That's why I support these round of protests and these round of changes, right? Let's see here. So Loki, let me respond to this one from Loki. He says, I understand. I just find it strange that the bourgeois out of nowhere are all over the radio fighting with the people of Haiti, with the losing grip of the country. Again, we need to keep the focus where it is. And the focus of where it is right now is the macro situation of the economy is in a very bad state, right? And yes, the bourgeois don't like Jovenel. And yes, they are piggybacking on this movement to get him out for their own interests. Yes, we're not saying that's not happening. But the issue, 80% of that issue, 80% of what's driving, 89% of what's driving this is the very desperate situation of the poor and the non-existent middle class. Focus on that. Leave this conspiracy theory stuff, for the barbershop. When you come to Haiti Biz News, let's get at the heart of the fundamental problem that's affecting the society. And the fact is, we have a poorly set up system, which he's trying to hijack. He's trying to hijack the term system, but the term that the protesters are using is the system of quid pro quo, poorly designed. To get a prime minister up, you have to pay $100,000 to every senator. Stuff like that, right? That's what is being discussed here. Let's focus on that. All right. And leave all that stuff you're used to doing in the barbershop. This blaming the bourgeoisie and all that. Yes, their interests are not consistent with the people. We get it. But there is a much bigger, much more important discussion we need to have, right? And that is what we're having here, which is a business-focused, solutioned response to what needs to be done. And certainly, I get accused a lot. And folks who don't really watch my stream, they just kind of, take segments here and there. Chris, you don't talk about politics. You need to talk about politics. You need to get into the heart of it. You need to be part of that change. Getting the people. I get accused of this. Okay? I'm naive for focusing so much on business and not on the general stuff. Without realizing that, I certainly am if the approach is correct. If the approach makes sense, right? And the way it's been set up thus far, which has been, for a political party, and are just random rambling of a barbershop person talking about how they want to come in and just do an overthrow of the country. I'm not going to waste my time and discuss and have those sort of conversations, even in my private life, much less on air. But if we're talking about now, and it's obviously clear, given the conditions on the street and the constant daily protests, that the people are not going to stop until a radical change happens, right? Okay, I'll talk about it. But I'll talk about it in so much that we are going to do and actually execute what's going to happen afterwards, which is what? Which is a total constitutional change. Right? And of course, I've heard, I got privately met. This is another thing I get, often. Oh, it's a pipe dream, Chris. You're smoking. You think they're going to allow a constitutional change? And my favorite question I just like to ask. So back in 1987 or 86, when Duvalier fell, and there's over 30 plus years of dictatorship, what happened then? How were we? And I ask this as a genuine question, because I want to know how are they able to get a new constitution then, right after 40 years of complete non-political partisanship to be allowed versus today? What's the difference? I want to know. And what's the difference? There's differences, right? So what differences are so profound versus a dictatorship versus a corruptionship, because which is what we're in right now, that would not allow for a new constitution to come into play, right? I want, I look forward to someone posting something here, but that's really the question I usually have when folks tell me it's not going to happen. And again, there's always someone outside around here. I can tell you the energy, the discussions from the lowest person to even the highest person, it's very clear. There is not going to be a continuation of the system because there can't be, right? There can't be. We have Sean Saturn. Looks familiar. I'm not sure if I've seen your name in here, but if it's your first time, welcome. Who would be in charge of this constitution? So the way constitutions are made, right? You have commissions and joint national. You have basically what is called a national assembly that has multiple parties from every sector of the population, from religious groups, from business groups, associations of farmers, association of teachers. Just they all come together and in effect discuss different provisions that should or should not be in the Constitution. A draft is proposed then because there's the National Assembly and there's the Commission, right? And the Commission is usually made of the former courts, right? The former courts, judicial branch typically is who heads that. And then they take those proposals, they round them out, clean them up, get the language right, gets it back to the National Assembly. The National Assembly will review it, make any final changes, but more or less get it to a particular state that, 90% or so complete. Goes back to the commission, a judicial commission, we'll just call them that for now. And then they finish it up, and then it becomes law, right? It becomes law. It becomes the Constitution, at which point then, per what the Constitution states, we would start moving towards electing and setting up the government in the manner. Well, first off, we'll be electing the senators and deputies, and then other departments and bureaus would move forward. Right. So that's how it would work. Great question. We got Ellie G. Good. Hello. First time I'm seeing you here. Something about a purge, but okay. We have Pierre Paul. Good morning. Which groups do you feel is most serious about actually making a change, and who will legitimize the new concept? I think I just answered that. Right. The Farah Jackson. Good morning, my dear. Good morning. Good to see you. Radio station does not inform people of the facts. They fear telling people the truth that would cause their death. Okay. All right. Well, this is what I'll say about radio stations, both in Haiti and also in America. They're very partisan. Right? They focus on a particular set of perspective and play on that rather than really focus on a fact-based presentation of the data of what's going on, because that's what sells. Right? That's what sells. I get it, right? But that's my perspective on most radio programs. All right, and we have Nicole and Gina here. I think they want you to be consumed by the politics like them, but provide no solutions. Absolutely, that's exactly what it is, right? They're consumed by the politics of it, and they're looking for an outlet. And there's plenty of other outlets. That's why I tell folks, listen, if you don't, there's every other media stream that exists is about politics. Go over there. Here, we're talking about a little something different. We're talking about a business-centric focus on getting the country out of this continual cycle of politics, crisis, temporary resolution, and then 5 years later, crisis. 3 to 5 years crisis, right? And the same barbershop guys talking about, we need a revolution, right? And then the revolution happens, fails, and then the cycle continues. We're trying to get out of that, right? We're trying to get out of that. It's insanity to produce the same constant levels of discussion and expect a different result, right? I didn't see anybody talk about my proposal of Haiti's new show becoming weekly. So I guess I take the silence as okay. Right. But again, the reason why is, again, I really want to focus on the book and get that out to you guys, get it out so we can, because that's really the first, to me, the very first step of the direction I want, what I'm building and working on here is we got to get that book out first, and then we can start really stabilizing and getting a proper network in place, and really see what we can do to move forward, right, in that sense. Okay, we got one vote for daily. Appreciate it, but I think you probably missed the rant that explained why I have to. I'm moving towards weekly, which is, the show usually can go on up to an hour. I do about an hour and some change to prepare for the show, and that altogether can run up to 2.5 to 3 hours altogether spent on the show, which is I'm not grabbing about. I enjoy preparing for the show and doing the show, but then when I look at the opportunity cost, which is me not making it, having only progressed only a fraction as much as I wanted to on my book. I really want to get the book out more than anything else. This is where I kind of have to move the chips around to make the time, right? And doing it weekly, I'm looking to doing it maybe Sunday around 10 or 11 in the morning, and hopefully I can still get some folks to come on that live and participate with me around then. But that's really the best win-win, because in actuality, I was thinking about just pausing the Haiti Biz News Show altogether, right? Taking 3 months possibly and not doing the Haiti Biz News Show at all. I didn't want to do that, right? I wanted to still have it and still participate in the conversation and informing and the dialogue that we do here in the morning, but at least once a week. And so I think that's the best middle ground I found, right, to do it weekly, right? So we got Ekli Stick saying, first time here. What of the over 10,000 NGOs calling the shot? Well, there isn't 10,000 NGOs anymore. A lot of them have left over the past few years. I don't know how to answer that. Obviously, a lot of NGOs really would prefer stability. A lot of the NGOs have certainly moved their behavior towards more self-sustainability, because it's obvious that the way NGOs, many of them are doing business, haven't changed the country. And I can tell you a lot of them have been moving towards utilizing more Haitian expertise, talent, allowing Haitians on the ground to be drivers, not just give, but to help empower. There's been a movement for the NGOs in that regard, and certainly there's still not doing it the right way, but I feel as if, a lot of NGOs that are still here, a lot of them are left because they made their money through the earthquake, bonza, right? But the ones that are left are switching to a much more sustainable option in terms of how to run things. So just want to make that quick comment. And then we have one vote for weekly. We got Mark Joseph here. The fear here is that the government is that after government change, the wealthy will be the most influential in the constitutional change process and leave the interest of the common folk behind. How do you prevent this? I don't know how true that is, because there's a document that has been signed by over 40 to 50 associations and groups, civic groups across the country, from Chamber of Commerce's to driver associations to farmer groups, that themselves have come out with constitutional proposals of what comes next. And those groups certainly would be involved in the National Assembly that participates in the constitutional reform that's being proposed. And I would think that they would have a very large say in what's being done in that Constitution. And certainly the rich will have a disproportionate say, obviously, because that's just how the world we live in. I mean, come on, look in America with big PACs. We're never going to say big money doesn't influence. But I think that I'm optimistic that the influence won't be as much as it could be, given that there are so many elements of the society on the streets pushing for reform and who are gonna very aggressively try to be part of the discussions, including the diaspora. I'm part of a few groups in the diaspora that are very much engaged, despite the fact that so many people who themselves are not engaged say that there is no engagement of the diaspora, say that there is no engagement, there's no organization. I'm part of groups that are. That's why I always ask them, what groups are you a part of? What groups have you tried to be a part of? Because I'm a part of groups that we have direct lines of connection to many facets of actors here in Haiti, and they're working very aggressively to ensure that the day that Moise drops, there's going to be many folks on planes here to make sure that they're engaged in that process. And so I'm not so pessimistic in that sense, Mark. I think the rich will have obviously a larger than numerically acceptable influence on what's going on, but it won't be certainly enough, right? There's several, right? There's several, but they all key around what I've already expressed, which is smaller government with less senators, engagement in diaspora to be part of the political process at all levels, right? And specific caps and specific guidelines in terms of how public spending needs to go, earmarked. For example, right now I think the spending for education is only at 10%. There are discussions that we should always have it at least 25, and that's where most developed countries have it, right? Earmarked right in the Constitution, right? Yeah, no, I know it's going to be. I'm going to miss a lot of folks. There's going to be a lot of folks going to church on that Sunday schedule. But we'll see. We'll play it by ear. Maybe I can do a little earlier. Maybe I can do a little later. We'll see. Mark, trust me, that's one reason why I've announced the weekly, right? We're working on it, brother. So, and Souvenir Pierre, I support the weekly show. Any thoughts on the daily post that isn't live but informative? No, but that's basically what the Haiti Biz News website is, my brother. HaitiBizNews.com. That's daily. It's autocrawler, goes out, goes to all the sites, grabs business-related articles, and right now it's a little more political, obviously, given what's going on, and puts it on the website in English for folks daily, right? So, I'm not leaving you guys high and dry. HaitiBizNews.com, right? HaitiBizNews.com. Let's take a look at IG. Let's see what's going on in the IG world today. Good morning to the folks who've come in, and I haven't said anything to them. You should do these regularly, even if they're just 5-10 minute summary live this morning. But the thing is, it's not just that, because you got to do research. It's not just me reading headlines. That's not what I do. I actually, I scour the internet myself, grab the pieces that are most impactful in terms of what matters, and then really think about, what's going on, the implications. And then I also have conversations with my sources. I have sources who are much closely aligned to the situation and provide me perspective, from those really close to what's going on. And so that takes time. Right? Let's see. Only a few people read books, so regular promotions will reach the most people the soonest to find them. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I want to do the week, Haiti Biz News Show weekly at the very least, to keep folks somewhat engaged, right? All right, guys. Well, thanks for the conversation. As always, this is why I enjoy doing these. I got at least over 30 comments in here. Very quality stuff, quality discussions, quality questions. I certainly appreciate it. And again, if you guys find value in these discussions, make sure you share the stream, share it on your social media, share it on Facebook, because you guys are part of this conversation, and you guys are basically when you share it, bringing others into that conversation to learn and become more informed in terms of what's going on from a guy, not just in a barbershop, a guy who's having these conversations with real and seeing things and partaking it from a very educated perspective as a business owner, as someone who has employees in his office, right? And very much skin in the game, right? And so again, do share the stream. If it's your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're having these conversations, at least for this week, Monday to Friday, and probably starting next week on Sundays. And to be a part of that conversation, right? And as always, listen, until we're back at it again, guys, we'll be back at it again. Peace.